What's going on, y'all? It's your girl here, and we are back with another episode during Black History Month, and I'm over the moon, elated to have a very special guest, Tracy. I am just so excited, y'all, just because Tracy is a good friend of mine, and also just because, y'all, Tracy is just a really genuine and authentic person. So, Tracy, I want you just to start out by introducing yourself and who you are.
Well, my name is Tracy, as Akira said. I really just, for myself, I'm a normal girl that's just obsessed with history. I love history. I love Black history. Um, I'm just really into our movement as, colored folks and the things that we went through as we went from being colored to now we're African Americans. Um, I'm really into sharing our story and sharing our story in my everyday life and the things that I like to do and the people that I meet. So that's what I do on a daily. That's something that I pride myself in. It's something that's very important to me um, in every aspect. I could be walking past somebody in the grocery store and I'm like, did you know? And I'm just that person. That's just me.
So, you just talked a little bit about, you being passionate about your choice of field of study. So what made you choose like a major and your concentration?
I'm a journalism major, but a lot of my focus, I was a history minor with a focus in African American studies.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my focus was my journalism was kind of on the back burner. A lot of my focus was more on our African American studies
Mm-hmm.
and the things that affected our community. My grandmother, she has her she was working on her master's. She has her bachelor's in education and her minor in Pan-African studies. So as a kid, I was just always raised and taught very well about who I am as a person. So it made me feel comfortable in my own skin. Growing up, I seen a lot of Black people, Black women in general, who are not comfortable in their own skin and strong enough um, to be comfortable in who they are and their melanin and how, we wear this um, confidence as a Black woman that a lot of other people don't have. So I was always taught from growing very young that being a Black woman is something very special, that it's a prize. Um, so I started to get deeper into my history as I got older. And then when I got into college, we went to a PWI. So there were a lot of things in college I was seeing. I was like, now what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really anybody that was just outward about telling people this is wrong. This is not okay.
I agree with you 100%. Seen a lot of things going to a PWI, girl. We've seen a lot
Yes.
to say the least. So with you, saying that you did see a lot, I know that you were very adamant about advocating on campus. And so what was your initial intent with that? And also like what is your initial intent like long term with you choosing that choice of field?
My initial intent was to get, our community heard. In small places like that, the African American community, minority community kind of becomes part of the general community, which that is an overall goal. But we do have things that are affecting us differently than a lot of people in the community, things that are kind of not unmendable, but they are. They're unmendable things that you can't ignore. You can't go without these topics and these issues in community, the hard topics that people don't want to talk about, people don't want to pay attention to, people want to slide them under the rug like, oh, they don't happen in this community because our community is too good for this. So I really just wanted to point out those things in the community that I was in and say, we can't silence these things. These
Yeah.
are things that are happening that are harmful to our community. So I took a step along with another classmate of mine. Shout out to him. He's done some great things. Um, we took a step all when it started with the we did the protest for Breonna Taylor, but before that, I had a forum about um, some of the I guess some of our other students were misusing the N word
Mhm.
on campus. Um, and that was a really big thing. I had a forum about it, and people were just kind of like they didn't want to come because they felt like it wasn't as important. And then another organization felt like it would be okay to, instead of come together and all come to the forum to make it something, they decided they was going to have an event on the day. And I was like, these are the things that we need to come together on
Mhm.
to put a stop to. And that's when it became a bigger goal of mine because people weren't seeing the overall vision of everything needs to stop until this is handled. So
I agree with you 100%. Um, so you were going to school during the time of the pandemic, and during that time, it was, I mean, a lot going on within the African American
yes.
community as far as racism. So could you elaborate a little bit in detail of like what that was like for you during that time?
I remember my mother had COVID. So through all the protests here in Louisville,
Mhm.
I was pretty much quarantined into my house. And I'm watching everything through a bird's eye view on TV and on live. And I'm just locked inside of my house and I can't do anything. I can't go out and protest because I risk getting somebody else sick. I
Mhm.
can't release my frustrations and share my condolences with the people in my community who were hurt. I can't be on the front line the way that I want to be because of COVID. So that like really brought my self-esteem down because that's something that I pride myself in. So I
Yeah.
had to find a way to voice my concerns, also voice my condolences, but voice my support and everything that was going on. So I kind of did a little spoken word during that period. Then when it trundled, it started trundling on into the semester, the school semester. And that's when a lot of people started really like messaging me like, hey, I need clarity on this. This is what happened. I'm needing clarity because, I have classmates who are thinking that, oh, some of these things are funny and are thinking that some of this stuff's a joke or are looking at me sideways because of my support of the movement. Um, so I really took it upon myself to say, we can't keep dealing with this. We got to come together as one because forced together, we're a stronger force together than we are apart. Granted, we need to learn how to, stand our own ground, but we're a stronger force together. So from there, we started to create a movement
Mhm.
upon campus um, and just opening the eyes of professors, students, anybody who was trying to tear down our vision.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching that, just seeing you guys, take on that action. Just because I know like just had a different experience when I would say this was my sophomore year when Trump was running for office, and it was riots outside and leeches hanging from the trees and stuff. And so for me, just being a person that's more so just like I'm always standing up for what's right, but I'm also a person that gets in the midst of emotion. And so just seeing everything that was going on and seeing, people like, oh, we support Trump and he's going to do this, make America great again. And it's just like, these are people that I have class with. And to be able to have to sit in class and do events and being part of these organizations with these individuals, it was very disheartening. So I definitely feel with you on that, because you want to be comfortable at the end of the day in your environment, especially with going to a PWI. um it's hard, it's tough, and people don't want to talk about the things that we overcome, because it is just so much adversity with going to a PWI, like so much.
Yes. And people don't, a lot of people, okay, they're like, oh, we're going to draw attention to this because of the obvious. But it's like, I could say that Black kids that go to a PWI have it hard,
Yep.
especially when you're trying to stand up for things and be a part of the movement. You have it terrible. Like, even with, you know, with professors sometimes. They kind of want to give you the cold shoulder, or they kind of want to say little smirky comments to you
Mm-hmm.
because they're they're afraid of what you might create in the energy you might bring into their classroom, because in their classroom it may make them feel like they're inferior in their knowledge on a certain situation. And
Yeah.
that's what I experienced. They felt like they were inferior to the knowledge that I was presenting to the table.
And
And
sometimes in those moments they want to get a reaction out of you too.
yes, and that's what I was trying to tell a lot of people, that you can't always, sometimes you got to sit back and let it unfold for itself. Never bite your tongue or keep yourself from saying what's right, because you got to be outward about things like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's a lot of things, that's a lot of what's wrong in our community now. um these generational things that are brought into our community, as far as I did a research on code switching
Mm-hmm.
in general. And so a lot of people felt like, oh, you need to code switch when you go into a setting. Code switching, to me, it's like, why do we got to switch a code? Why
Yeah.
we got to turn on our switch? Why we got to say, oh, I'm going to be this person, and then I'm going to be the next person? And it really has to come down to, are you comfortable with who you are yourself? Are you comfortable in your skin? Are you comfortable about being outward about how you support the movement? And I was tired of doing that. I was tired of going into class and code switching and acting like, oh yeah, we're good friends, we're all buddies here. No. So I just felt like it was a time for us to stand up and stand out. We're not about to keep switching codes. Not
I
gonna hear
feel
the
you.
message.
I feel you 100% on that. Just because, just a little bit, that's how I end up starting my business, what we ignored, because being in a class like News Channel 12, I was noticing that the producer was like, oh, well, you can't say this because of this. And I think it was more so um, irritating to me, because I'm like, well, you want me to say this instead because this is the way that it has to be said in the media, or do I need to be telling the actual truth? And I also ran into an incident where I was out of town and they published my story for one of the organizations on campus at the time. And it was a Black organization. And they put something along the lines of, uh, it just reminded me of slavery. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was very uncomfortable with me being a Black female, also being a part of a Black organization. at the time, I'm just like, okay, so do you not know how this makes me look? And then I'm the vice president of this organization. I'm trying to do events with this organization. But of course, they knew that it wasn't me at the end of the day. And having to sit down and have that actual conversation was really uncomfortable. And I had to check them in that moment because, despite me being out of town, it was nothing to be a phone call away.
Right.
To just tell me like, hey, what do you want the headline of your story, your article to be? And so running into those incidents made me want to start my own platform. It was like the perfect time. I was like, hey, talking to my friends, like, it be so much in society that we ignore, that we do not want to talk about, and because it makes other people uncomfortable. But I'm gonna make a platform so that we can get a little bit uncomfortable about these topics that needs to be shared.
Right. It's like, that's how it is though. Like, I was tired of making people comfortable. I was tired of sitting in class, letting them be comfortable while I'm uncomfortable about the things going on, and y'all laughing and joking about it. Like, it's not funny. It's not funny to me.
Disgusted just seeing somebody do that, just like, how could you find something funny that's not, I guess it would be funny to them because it's not happening to their race.
Right. Like, for them, they don't get it. So it's like there are some of them. Now I can say there are some that actually get it, that are willing to learn and change. But there are a lot of people who, because of the way that they've been grown, the way that they grew up, or that they're raised, they won't change their point of view about the world and its constructs about race.
Yeah.
And they don't. Granted, we have to accept the bad, but there are things that you can change going forward and stop repeating the same cycles. And that's one of the things I was sick of. Like, why do y'all keep repeating this cycle? Why is it still allowed why are these things still allowed and okay? We keep repeating the same cycle. So it was like, we got to make a stand. We got to do it.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. When I seen you out there, I said, okay, Tracy, yes, be the change that you want to see. And you talk a lot about change, like, all the time. So what is something that you want to see as a change for our African American community?
Something that I want to see change. We have this construct in our community that's more about, within our community, that's about this. It's about, oh, she's too black, he's too black, they too black. Or if somebody's more outward about the things going on in our community, another melanated person, another African American person, I look over to them and look at them like they doing too much. That's something that I think needs to change. I think that we have to learn how to be more supportive of each other. Granted, we have these things in our life and things that have made us reach this point to why that has created a divide in our community of why we aren't supportive of each other, that lead back to slavery. But I think that being more supportive instead of being more constructive upon one another, I think it would take our community from here to here.
Yeah.
Like being more supportive of just not about how we look on the outside, but how we are on the inside. And I feel like because we have this whole race thing is about how we look on the outside, we don't know how to look past that as a community. Like, you may look at another Black person, but you prejudge them before you talk to them because we have this construct about skin color and about hairstyles and about clothes that we can't get through the outside exterior into the inside of the person. And that's something that I want to change about our community. More more support, less critiquing and criticizing.
Yeah, I think that would be very beneficial. I think we would go a long way as a whole. Um, and also, you do talk a lot about what the allies can do and support, but how can they support us, especially during a time like this? Because I mean, it's been going on for years, but now it's just different now that we can see it in front of our faces on camera and nothing's being done. So, what can allies do?
I think that one of the things that allies can do that is so simple, a lot of allies want to act, they want to be a part instead of just listening. Be in the background because that's what this movement is about. Granted, you support the movement, but we want to bring our people to the forefront so that they can tell their stories firsthand. Be okay with being a listener and a learner, somebody who wants to learn. You don't always have to act upon what you learn. It's okay to listen and take the backseat drive. And that's what I think. You gotta learn how to listen before you can actively put action behind something.
I love that. I love that a lot. And so it is Black History Month. And most of the time, it's just a month to educate yourself, but also to educate yourself all the time, not just during Black History Month. So briefly, can you share like what do you do during Black History Month to make sure that you are educating yourself on someone you may be haven't even heard of? Because I mean, I know when I was in elementary school, middle school, and even high school, like I didn't even learn about certain people honestly until I just took the time amongst myself to learn about these individuals and still learn as an adult, which is sad.
One of the things that I think is a really good wave now is that we got this thing called social media for a reason. Mm-hmm. You learn something about, somebody who's brilliant in our community, doing something to create change, share it so that other people can also gain the knowledge. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people fail to realize, that sharing knowledge is creating knowledge. So you share something with someone else is creating more knowledge. One thing that I do, I always like to, I read the same books over and over again. So I read a lot of books about Frederick Douglass. I could probably tell you so many things about a lot of things in the antebellum period because that's where I pride myself on, slavery. So I find these small things during times of enslavement, things that I may think about today, like, oh, during slavery, let's think about, I was out at work and we were just talking about, some of the industrialized things. So what did I go do? I Googled industrialization during slavery. And so I'm reading about how our movement ended slavery, moved up into industrialization. So just picking topics, you can even pick, like, say your favorite food is chips. Go in Google, put in chips, put in African American, look it up. Yeah. Read the history. Then underneath of it, I'm pretty sure you can find a Black-owned chip brand and purchase you some chips to support our community. That's how you keep the generational wealth going. That's how you keep the knowledge going. The small things, people think, oh, we got to look at these big topics like freedom.
Yeah.
No, the small things matter too. And that's what people fail to realize. Like, I think Black History Month is about exploring our history, rather it be something minor or something major.
I love that. Okay, yes, get them together during Black History Month. So Tracy, I do just want to ask you just one last thing, which is overall, what is, well, actually two. So what is something that you want to see far as change that long down the line, long term, and say within the next 10 years? And then also, where do you see yourself within the next 10 years?
I think that one of the things that I would like to see change in the next 10 years, I want to see more love in our community. Like, we don't give our community, because we critiquing each other all the time, or we coming so hard at each other, whether it be on social media or it's in everyday life, we don't give enough love to each other. And that's something that's weakening our community. I can say that because we don't love ourselves and love each other enough, our whole race could be wiped out so quick.
Yeah, that is true.
People don't think about that. Like, love is love. And, I understand that love is love, but we also got to have a pride about who we are. First, you got to be strong in who you are as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes the way that we love shows the confidence that we lack in ourselves. So I feel like if we love each other more, instead of trying to dodge our own community, because it's a lot of people who dodge our own community, just won't even. I'm not.
Sounds
because of the way they feel about themselves. Mm-hmm. We got to love ourselves and love who we are as a part of this community to keep our community growing. Like, even with Black-owned businesses, like, because of the hatred that we got for our people, we're like, we're not shopping with that business. I'm not shopping with her because the last time I went to a Black-owned business, da-da-da-da-da. Why I gotta be all that? Why can't just be, I'm gonna support the movement and I'm gonna support the love because I love who I am. Mm-hmm. And I love my brother, or I love my sister. So I'm gonna support them. And for the next 10 years, for me, what I think that I wanna be doing, I wanna be sharing the journey of our people and how we're constantly creating history every day. There are a lot of Black people who don't even take the time to look at history. Mm-hmm. They don't even take a time to open up and not even that, just a lot of people just don't take the time to read and create knowledge because they don't know who they are, creating knowledge about who they are as a person, why they're this way, because we have these behavioral traits that also come along with who we are as a person and how they got here. A lot of people don't even know how they got to the city that they at, or why their family settled where they're at. But all that comes from is just reading and educating ourselves on our history and our background. Mm-hmm. So I would like to help people do that in the future, create knowledge upon who they actually are.
I love that, Tracy. I can't wait to see, everything, work out. And you're gonna be looking back 10 years from now, you're gonna be like, wow, I really said what that I was gonna do this. Like, that's amazing.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. I really do. And I love that you are just so vocal and you are empowering and you are all for the movement and you are going to do great things in the future. So I do really appreciate you, coming on here and just sharing, your story and being open about what Black History Month means and how to educate yourself and sharing your stories as an African American female going to PWI. So thank you so much for your time and just being open, Tracy.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I really enjoy, sharing these journeys and these stories with people. So hopefully one day I can inspire somebody to go out and to learn something about themselves that they didn't know before.